What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Soxmentary. This is a PWTB special.
Run at second, 2 out. Palmero over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws, out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
So, the White Sox pulled an amazing surprise in 2005, despite no MLB professional expert thinking the White Sox were going to win the World Series. They pulled off the amazing upset and actually pulled off an amazing World Series win. They broke their curse of 88 years since their last World Series win. Hello, my name is Thomas Harsey. We're doing Soxmentary on PWTB with our star Evan Payette
How's it going, guys?
And another guest who we've had on the show in the past, Brian O'Connor.
What's up?
And there's the base hit. They're going to wave him around. He's going to score, and this ball game is over. Yes.
So that was the moment I became a White Sox fan. I was 10 years old at the time. I was with my grandpa, who was a diehard White Sox fan, my dad, and my 3-year-old brother. And we watched Kevin Youkilis walk it off against the Rangers, and with the double and the batting stance, and it just sealed it for me. What about you, Thomas? First, when did you become a diehard Sox fan?
So this is like a little, obviously when we were little kids, we probably tried to pick random teams to like and all that. I'm not saying I picked a random team, but like obviously, when I was younger, I wasn't really paying attention to sports just yet. I was more into hockey, the Wolves for some reason. But I would guess what solidified my experience was my second White Sox game. Not my first, because I could barely remember that first game. The second game, Mark Burley started. We defeated the Dodgers by 7 runs, and this was in 2011.
Let's go, Burley. What about you, OC?
So my favorite was like I first really started remembering was 2007. Me and my dad went to a Sox game, Javier Vasquez, basically almost a complete game. I think a complete game. And we won 6-1. I believe Tommy hit a home run. But what really solidified it, 2008. Tiebreaker, blackout game.
Blackout. The original blackout. Yeah.
Yes. Jim Tomey, 1-0. Johnny Danks, 8 innings strong. Yeah, that's probably the game I remember the most that solidified me being a Sox fan. And because I always went to games growing up, but like remembering, I was 7 years old. Like that really solidified.
2-2. And in the air, deep to center field. Gomez going back, looking up. It's gone. Jim Tomey with a home run.
So clearly, after 2005, the White Sox tried to, get on a repeating track of the World Series by trading Aaron Rowan for Jim Tomey. And the White Sox literally went right where they left off in 2005. They had a great season. They were 90-72 or 92-70. But unfortunately the White Sox did not make a trade move on a deadline. And with the only one wild card spot, the White Sox did not make the playoffs due to the tough division. And it was a heartbreaker since 2006 should have been a year we would have been in the playoffs. Then in 2007, a lot of players had declining issues, and then the White Sox fell off. And then 2008 came. Carlos Quentin had a tremendous year, and he almost would have won probably MVP if he didn't get hurt. And the White Sox were able to make the playoffs again in 2008, thanks to the tiebreaker from John Danks' amazing pitching performance and Jim Tomey's go-ahead game-winning home run. Then 2009, the White Sox did trade Jim Tomey to the Dodgers, and Kenny Williams has blamed Ozzie Guillen for that trade. And Jim Tomey, when he was traded back to the Twins, he would just haunt us with these walk-offs. And then 2010 hit, we were on the right track of going back to the playoffs. The White Sox fell off in the last month of September. It was an absolute collapse. 2011, we were supposed to be all in. We signed Adam Dunn, who should have been the alternative to Jim Tomey, had the absolute worst season of his career, along with AJ Brzezinski and a few others who didn't live up to expectations. The White Sox missed the playoffs. And then in 2012, the White Sox were able to get back and improve with Chris Sale starting on the mound Jake Peavy, Gavin Floyd. Then the White Sox did make a trade in the deadline for Kevin Youkilis. And the White Sox were looking well like they were going to the playoffs with Adam Dunn resurging, hitting 41 home runs in the season. Paul Konerko was still in a prime year, and along with AJ Brzezinski, had a highest home runs hit since 2005. But unfortunately, in September, the White Sox had a big losing skid, which the Detroit Tigers had caught up to us, and then they took the division series, ultimately go into the World Series to lose to the Giants.
So that's 7 years of mediocrity right there, which Thomas described. And the White Sox kept the same format. Jerry Reinsdorf has always kept the same format of building, like you said, getting Tomey. They got Tomey. They wanted to run it back essentially.
We can't say 2005 was a fluke, because in 2006 we were right where we left off. But obviously the White Sox made some bad moves, not making a good move by the deadline, and we did not, finish it. Then obviously 2007, there were some declining players we had, and the team just wasn't there that year.
But the team was the team, and it wasn't a fluke, but it was a good team, but it wasn't a great team. And They assembled free agents, but they never really, until they got that Chris Sale player, they never built that core start. Obviously they had Burley, but they never built that core starting staff. So they got the players they needed. They had the 2008 run, the blackout game, which was mentioned before. But they never could put it together. They were outmatched by the Rays and the ALDS, is because they signed these players, but they never really built sort of a core together that was so magical in 2005. 2005, a lot of these guys came out of nowhere, and the Sox were projected in last place.
And then Ozzie Ball did play a role in 2005. Ozzie was able to get these players. We traded away some key players we had from 2004. We got AJ Brzezinski, Scott Podsednik. Podsednik, if people are still young, he was a great on-base runner. He was able to steal bases. And
let's talk a little bit about Ozzie though. Why do you think Ozzie demised Ozzie?
I just think maybe he kind of grew old, because everyone has an expiration date with a certain team. I think Ozzie came in, he chewed some players out. He made sure nothing was gonna slide, basically, and it helped the team pretty well. He was a fiery guy, but I just think he kind of wore off. And when you keep the same core around for a while, sometimes you don't respond. And I think something upstairs too. There was obviously a problem upstairs. I don't think him and Kenny Williams saw eye to eye per se. So I think that's what kind of led to his demise, and it was unfortunate because he was a good manager for us, but everyone has an expiration date at some point.
So Thomas, after 2008, right? When does the focus become okay, this team was good. We won the World Series in 2005, but we can't always run it back? Was it that 2012 collapse you're talking about?
So, we had a few collapses. Everyone looks at 2012 because that was our last winning record until 2020. But really, we also had a collapse in 2010 when we were supposed to be, going to the playoffs. We collapsed again. We're never able to put it together, and it's an unfortunate. We had great teams from 2005 to 2012. We had Alexei Ramirez, Paul Konerko, who was still in his prime until 2013. We had really good players, and we just never were able to put it together, and it was very unfortunate.
Because it was the putting it together factor. Let's talk a little bit about Robin Ventura. That first year, he busts on the scene, and then 2013 and 14 hit, and 63 and 99 the next year after the collapse. How does that even happen?
So, okay, I'll probably give a few explanations. We obviously had a couple players like AJ Brzezinski, Kevin Youkilis, and all that, and we replaced them with Tyler Flowers, who was AJ's backup. Then, obviously Paul Konerko hit a big decline. That was, I think we all knew that was it for Paul Konerko after that 2013 season. So I would just say the team was just new at that point. It was practically we were rebuilding without even saying we were rebuilding, but we were never actually rebuilding. I would just say, like I said, I would just say that the White Sox, obviously they're letting go of players, and obviously, it wasn't there in 2013. We didn't have an offense. We didn't have I don't think we had like a symbol, I'd say. In 2014, we signed Jose Abreu. We got Adam Eaton, and the White Sox actually did pretty good. You know what?
But would you argue that's the same strategy as before, though? Getting those key players. Like I get Jose Abreu's a little different, but still, it's the same. Buying the stars, but not collaborating.
I think the offense was decent that year. Like if you actually look from a perspective, but we did not have a bullpen. I mean, if your closing pitcher is what was his name? Bolsonaro or something?
Belisario.
Pellisario, yeah.
Our bullpen was just terrible, and our pitching.
Addison Reed, you got to keep him in mind too.
Okay, yeah. Addison Reed was great. He was
decent. Yeah,
he was traded. He was traded after 2013, though.
Remember Sergio?
Was he part of the Eaton deal? I forget.
He was not. He was not. There was He was two separate trades with the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
I believe Addison Reed was traded for Matt Davidson.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And then,
so at this point, the Sox, they're moving along. Rick Hahn is hired in 2013. Kenny Williams goes on to be Jerry Reinsdorf's personal pet or something, whatever you want to call him. And at that point, it does seem like Rick Hahn's getting some more exciting players in the fold, but it's still the same result. And let's talk a little bit about the 2015 hype first. Why was there so much hype there?
Obviously the experts were saying we were going to be pretty good that year. Then, we got Adam LaRoche, who was he was decent before, 2015. We had Zach Duke, who was a very good reliever. Then we signed David Robertson for a 4-year, $46 million deal. And, David Robertson was a great closer. I mean, no questions asked about it. I think the White Sox pitching rotation that year was very solid in 2015. Obviously, we didn't have an offense. Jose Abreu was like our only offensive symbol. I think we were relying on Adam LaRoche, still had a few years left, and he declined. Alexei Ramirez, he was ready to fall off too. I mean, the team was just falling off again. And Melky Cabrera, oh yeah, I forgot about him. We got Melky Cabrera that year. We just did not have enough players. Like we still had Tyler Flowers, we had Gordon Beckham. We didn't even have a second baseman at all.
Yeah, but the optimism followed into the next year.
Line, base hit right field. It was worth the wait for Brett Eibner. Well, a shot high, right field. Does this get him? And it's gone. Mariners win.
After the 2015 disappointing season, the White Sox were still optimistic on competing. After the season ended, we signed for Brett Lawrie, who was a good second baseman. He had a great energy factor. And then we traded for Todd Frazier, who was the home run derby champion in the year prior. So he was clear, that was a great trade and great signing. And Melky Cabrera, Jose Abreu, all those players were doing great. The offense in 2016, it looked like we were going to have a 1908 rematch after looking through April, having a 23-10 start. And the biggest collapse that happened was the bullpen and the Adam LaRoche saga during the spring training. Spring training, Adam LaRoche was he was bringing his son to spring training, and the White Sox front office did not like it, apparently. So they told him.
The team did start well. They started 26-10. Right. Besides that, obviously the infighting going on.
But there were some say that it did kind of collapse the team.
It did. You can definitely, and we're going to get to that in a little bit with the sale thing. But first thoughts, I'll go to OC first. That Kansas City series, late May, all the collapses, including the 7-1. What were you thinking at that time?
Well, I look at that Kansas City series as like a nail in the coffin, because a few games prior we collapsed in that against Texas, but I thought we rebounded well. We had pretty nice home series against the Blue Jays, but that Texas series was a start because we had 11-6 lead. But anyway, that Kansas City series, oh man. So yeah, we collapsed in every game. We had a lead in every single game, late in the game too, and the wheels just fell off.
Thomas?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what OC said. People don't really recognize it was more the 11-6. Like ever since we saw 11-6 collapse, the White Sox were just we were not being able to win series. We kind of got killed by the Astros. The Royals took us in town like when we were in Chicago the week earlier. So when we were going to Kansas, we like he said we had a lead in every single game. Our pitching just collapsed every game. 7-1. David Robertson was kept in way too late. Then we had Tommy Kahnle, who was he wasn't not what he is today.
Pre 2017 Tommy Kahnle.
Right. And he was kind of out of control at the time.
And that's the big subject, because yes, David Robertson didn't have bad stats in 2016 if you look at it, but it's the management, and he wasn't clutch. And that was the big thing with Robin Ventura, is he could not control the bullpen. It was the same thing with the Adam Lynn video we showed later. Chris Sale was throwing a one-hitter going into the 9th inning, and they bring in David Robertson, knowing what was going to happen. And that whole series, the Kansas City was the pivot point from us being like maybe a World Series contender. But when it really hit for me personally was after the All-Star break, that out West series. 3 at the Angels, 3 at the Mariners. Lost 5 out of 6, like 3 different walk-offs, I think, 2 to 3 different walk-offs. That was the nail in the coffin. Like, this is not even a playoff team.
Yeah. And that Angels series, I believe we only scored 1 run in that series.
We did.
Yeah, I was at the first game. We lost. I think we only got a few hits, and we got blown up by 7 runs.
It was one of the, I think it was the second game they got, or no, the third game they got 1 run. And it was a blowout anyways. So later in 2016, August, September go by, they finished bad. They finished, I believe 76 and 86.
78 and 84.
That was the year before. Yeah.
Improvement.
Yeah, improvement. That's how they saw it at the time. So Robin Ventura, this is the end of the road, right?
Yes, he resigned after the game, last game of the season. I was in the stands. I get the ESPN notification, show everyone around me. But yeah, that was the end of the road for Robin Ventura.
3-2. He struck him out. James Shields, Maroons 2.
Tonight, another first in Chicago baseball history.
Field.
That's in the gap, and he's going to give it a shot.
Keep on going,
He's going to go. He's going to give it a shot.
Keep on going.
Yes! Yeah!
The last cycle, Jose Valentin in 2000.
So then after the 2016 disappointing season, Robin Ventura resigned. We hired Ricky Renteria, our bench coach at the time, who was the Cubs manager in 2014. The White Sox went immediately to rebuilding as they traded for Chris Sale to the Boston Red Sox for Michael Kopech and Yoan Moncada, who was viewed as the #1 prospect at the time. The day after, we traded Adam Eaton to the Washington Nationals for Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez. So we were going into a rebuilding phase, and 2017 was no different.
Real quick, initial reactions, all of you guys, right when you heard Sale was traded. What were you feeling?
Shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was at lunch at like high school, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I knew it was coming, but like just to see it, and especially the Red Sox, it was disgusting a little bit. But no, yeah.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of the rebuild right away, but the rebuild, what Thomas is about to explain, the rebuild was definitely necessary.
Yeah, it definitely was needed. It was just shocking because it was through my teenage year, going into my teenage years.
Yeah.
How do you think Lions fans felt when Matthew Stafford got traded?
And then won a Super Bowl. But yeah. All right.
Well, that kind of was to us with Chris Sale because he won the next year.
Okay.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, he did win in 20. It was I was
So
like,
this would actually be a good time to introduce our newest member. We got Keith here, and Keith became a fan during the rebuild. How was that kind of like with all the losing, like right away?
Yeah, so I didn't really start following baseball or the White Sox as closely as I do now until like 2019. But everything before that, all the years before that, I always was like, yeah, I'm a Sox fan, even though I didn't, follow it as much. But every time you say you're a Sox fan to somebody, you just, I always felt that like sadness, because the Cubs like winning the World Series in 2016, and a lot of my friends being Cubs fans, always whenever I opened my mouth and said I was a Sox fan, they were
I was
like,
rooting
I
for the
feel bad for
Cubs.
you,
I did not want Cleveland to win. I'm probably in the minority in that, but
Yeah.
I wanted Cleveland to win because I did not want the Cubs. I just did not like any Cubs fan at the time, despite I had good friends who were Cubs fans. I did not.
Oh, no. Yeah, forget the Cubs fans. I'm not talking about. I just was talking about the Cubs team. I did not want back-to-back years of the Royals and Indians winning. Anyways, that was a bad World Series. Well, it was a good World Series, but it was bad for us. But
at least we're not Guardians fans now because they haven't won since the 40s.
And they got their name changed. But all right, Thomas. So 2017.
All right, so like I said, we had those two big trades, and it was clearly shown we were rebuilding. The White Sox started off 13-10, so the White Sox were doing pretty decent until the deadline. Then we started trading away Jose Quintana for Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease. We're gonna go back to those names later. Then we trade Todd Frazier, David Robertson, and Tommy Kahnle for some peanuts.
Yeah,
that
was the one rebuild trade that I think is not really debatable. It just didn't pan out. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be much to begin with. But
I mean, Rutherford was supposed to be like number 30 in the prospect time at the time. Then he went to 99. Then I don't even know. Is he still in our system right now?
He just got he was the last peach that was in the system, and now he just signed elsewhere. So no one in that trade is within the White Sox system anymore.
Then we traded Melky Cabrera.
Also called up Yoan Moncada the day of that Yankees trade.
Yep.
That's important. Yes.
And obviously Moncada struggled. He wasn't doing. I mean, he was struggling because he's a rookie, but like we were thinking that obviously.
But the thing about Moncada that was so interesting and that caught so much Sox. I think about that first game he played versus the Dodgers. What caught my attention was how patient he was at the plate. Usually rookies are trying to make a name for themselves right away. Moncada, and obviously we'll talk about in 2018 that changed a little bit. But he was so patient at the plate, and it got Sox fans excited. I remember watching that.
Right. Then so pretty much we traded a good amount of pieces, so we were just we were trying to tank. So obviously right. Well, then we ended the offseason 2017. For some reason, the White Sox were trying to put some things together. I don't know. You could say that was a contending phase, or so we were trying to trade for Manny Machado in 2018.
Yes.
It never went through. Okay, I'm trying to make sure. Then we got Joaquin Sorios. I think that's his name, right?
Yeah, from the Royals. Closer.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so
2018, there was obviously no expectations, right, OC?
Right.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people were thinking we were going to do like in the 70s in a wins column and all that for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, there was no crazy expectations, but we thought we'd be better because we thought people were going to take a next step. It obviously wasn't the case because our pitching was terrible. Lucas Giolito, worst pitcher in baseball. You guys see the ad all the time now.
Yeah, it's a meme.
But yeah, Lucas Giolito, not very good. No one took a step in the pitching front. And then our lineup, besides Jose Abreu, who had an injured year, no one really took a step in the.
I think if you could ask a Sox
Jose
fan,
Abreu's groin injury, that was the summarization.
Outside of Kopech at the end, maybe, I think if you could ask all Sox fan if there's a year you could just wipe off the face of the planet, it'd be 2018. And that was the year Keith, I think, became a fan. So,
yeah.
I
mean, pretty much 2018, nothing was good. nothing positive.
Me
Despite
and Thomas did go to a Sox game in Detroit though together. Or well, we met up there. So that was one thing about 2018.
we were fighting for third place against the Tigers.
Right. Yeah, third
And-
place. That's sad enough. And we lost 100
and-
games. Yeah.
And me and Thomas did meet up at a game too in 2018.
Yep. I think it was like a few week difference too.
Oh, that's
got
cool.
got to see Nicky Delmonico and his Cardi B walk up song.
And Tim Anderson's bobblehead.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the Nicky Delmonico hype. Like after 2017 at the end, like people legit thought like this was like a piece. And Daniel Polka too, you know.
Sergeant Polka. Well,
yeah.
no, I think that was 2018 when he
Yes.
was big thing.
Yeah. Well, Delmonico was at the end of 2017. That was Polka at the end of 2018. Through 2018.
I think that was sad. That was like our only hype we had with Sergeant Polka.
Yes, because they thought he would be good, and then in 2019 he's one of the worst players.
Yeah, because I guess pitchers figured him out that
yes.
maybe we shouldn't throw these guys all fastballs.
Okay, so obviously, that's nothing to explain. 2018, the White Sox, were rebuilding. Nothing was positive, and
believe it or not, is the Chicago White Sox. They're the team right now with the checkbooks that open. They're being very aggressive. They have met with Bryce Harper away from this hotel. In fact, they met at the area resort.
Okay, so after the 2018 season, we decided to go after Bryce Harper or Manny Machado. And this was the biggest two free agent signings of the free agency market for either team. For Manny Machado, it was either the Yankees, the Phillies, and the White Sox. The Yankees pulled out pretty early. It was the Phillies and the White Sox. The Phillies decided to go for Bryce Harper. So it looked like from December to early February, it looked like Manny Machado was going to go to the White Sox. And towards the end, the White Sox could not make a good trade signing deal for Manny Machado. The Padres jumped in, and the Padres offered more money that was guaranteed because Manny Machado wanted the money guaranteed and not incentives. So he got a $300 million deal, 10 years for San Diego Padres. The White Sox, despite that, signed James McCann. I'm gaffing on that, but
and John Jay, you got to remember. If you guys remember the legendary
Yonder Alonso and John Jay.
You guys got to remember the legendary Deadspin article. White Sox signed
shitty player.
The
White Sox. Okay,
he's fine.
And Yonder Alonso.
That the White Sox signed John Jay and Yonder Alonso, who were both Manny's buddies, to get him in, and that didn't work out. Then we got McCann to sign. We got Colme traded for Narvaez, got traded to Seattle for Colme. So the White Sox in 2019, despite not having Manny Machado, there was still some optimism with Yohan Moncada moving to third base. Eloy Jimenez was being called up. Despite some injuries from Eloy in the beginning, he did have a good year. And that was, it was a big step forward in 2019. Despite the White Sox not completing the season with a winning record, the White Sox did have an amazing rebound. Lucas Giolito had one of the biggest rebounds in obviously Jose Abreu had a great year.
Moncada had a great year.
Yep. We had the offense. We just needed more pitching. And then in 2019 offseason, we signed our biggest signing yet at the time, Yasmani Grandal.
Yes.
So then obviously we go for we trade for.
We signed Dallas Keuchel and
and Edwin and Carcion. Then we
that was the big
for Nomar Mazzara. Think he was going to be like a good piece. I don't know. So 2020, then March 13th.
So before that, 2019, just initial thoughts. I'll go to Keith first. How much optimism were you feeling?
Didn't we have Yomer Sanchez a second that year, or was that 2018?
Yes. That was his Gold Glove year. I'm pretty sure, right? Or was that 2020?
Yeah, 2019, Yomer Sanchez. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there was definitely, we were making moves, trying to put pieces together, but and it was just, a lot of the people we signed. I mean, Yonder, John Jay, Edwin, and stuff like that. Like we just signed these people and just, I mean, they did decent, but not exactly what we planned for them or what we hope for them.
Yeah, OC. So how obviously, at this time, Moncada's performing well, Giolito's performing well, Robert is rising through the minor leagues.
Right.
Just how did you feel like, because we talked way earlier in the pre-rebuild that we would have a bunch of stars, but they wouldn't coalesce. Did you think this was finally the group that was about to coalesce?
Yes, I felt a bunch of hype with these stars because obviously Yohan Moncada had a great year, had great stats. Yeah, Eloy Jimenez was starting to figure it out once he came back from his injuries, and obviously Giolito. Again, I'll reference that ad. He shortened up his delivery.
That ad's just ingrained in my head. 2018, worst player in baseball, or worst pitcher and player in baseball. But yeah.
And then obviously had a good bullpen with Colome, and things were looking on the up. Obviously, we fell off a lot in the second half, but the stars still continued to shine, I felt. And I felt like things were looking up for us.
And that's what mattered, really. The record that year, I mean, yeah, they were in the wild card hunt for a little bit in June, but the record didn't matter. It was the progress, and we saw the progress. So let's see where that ended up.
Okay, so 2019 offseason, like I've said, we signed Grandal. We got Keuchel, we got Mazzara, we thought could be a breakout player. Then went in Carcion, who probably looked like he could have been good too. Kept in his prime. Then March happened, March 2020. I think everyone who's alive right now remembers that obviously baseball, basketball, hockey, and literally everything got shut down for a few months. But anyway, then obviously we had a shortened 60-game season when in July. It was the late July when we got this season started. And I mean, we had our players there. Obviously, we had a higher. We got more teams in the playoffs. We got through the shortened season. White Sox should have been maybe a good playoff team, but obviously we did not do good against the Oakland. We had our pitching, and we just couldn't put it together towards the late of the season. Then Liam Hendricks closed us out in Game 3 of the wild card.
Yep.
Then we got rid of Ricky Renteria. He made a bad move in Game 3 by getting rid of our starting pitcher in the first inning. Then we hire. We had a few options: AJ Hinch or
OC's boy.
Yep. We had options. Just say that because I don't want to go full detail because we're talking about the White Sox.
The two big names, AJ Hinch and Alex Cora, were coming off their suspensions.
Yep. Yes. And it obviously AJ Hinch wanted to be on our team. We had that man. We get the rumors. Oh, the White Sox are looking into getting this retired manager who hasn't managed in 10 years.
Hall of Famer, put the respect with
Hall of Famer who had the third most management wins, who was fired by Hawk Harrelson when he was a GM.
Yes, 1982. Keith, by the way, if you can't tell, I was the Tony fanboy of the group, but yeah.
Keith, if you had the knowledge that Hawk was the GM at one point.
Yeah, right. So at that point, so 2020, let's go 2020 real quick. So we make the playoffs, obviously 60-game year, could be deemed as illegitimate in a few years eventually.
That's risk.
I guess, so you finish 35 and 25, you get bounced out of the playoffs. Is the optimism still there? Is it fading? Where are we at?
Optimism was still there for me. Obviously, first time making the playoffs. You would think they'll just build on that because, let's face it, we had zero playoff experience on their roster. Like there was literally almost, besides maybe a couple players, we had legit nothing really. And besides Dallas Keuchel, no one's won a World Series on that roster. So my optimism was still there, but
And
like,
you also all the players built. Abreu wins MVP too.
Oh yeah,
Like
also
that's
Grandal had the
yeah.
playoff experience.
Yes.
and Grandal too, but like still though, like you think like a lot of your stars are young, and we also had some injury issues towards the end, so we had Eloy, we also had Dallas Keuchel tweak his back, but like I mean, I was looking forward to 2021 because there was foundation built in 2020, even though we faded away towards the end, lost the division, but still made the playoffs, still was top 5 in the AL, so I still felt pretty good.
Have months to think about this, knowing that you had that DUI charge out there, and talking to folks like, do you know who I am, et cetera, et cetera. It reeks of privilege and entitlement.
So obviously, then we hired Tony La Russa, who hasn't managed in 10 years, and it came out he had a DUI, and the White Sox knew about it, but they hired him anyway. And then AJ Hinch got hired by the Tigers. Correa went back to the Red Sox, but we signed Liam Hendricks. We made some moves. We were still looking good for the 2021 season. The White Sox left right where they left off with Grandal having good season with Abreu. Tim Anderson in our pitching was pretty good. Moncada was iffy, and then we didn't have Eloy Jimenez for most of the year, and that was a big blow. And it just showed that White Sox, if we were fully healthy in 2021, we would have been a lot better. And it was unfortunate.
Was that on Eloy, do you think, Thomas?
I just want to know how you get hurt from trying to rob a home run. I mean, I don't know.
Does anyone here think that was solely on Eloy? Because I have heard that from some people. Luke Lau.
No, I don't think that season was not solely on Eloy. I feel that one bat.
The physical trainer needed to get fired.
But like, whatchamacallit though, like, yeah, that was a stupid thing in spring training. You don't rob home runs. You're there.
Unless if you're trying to make the team.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Keith?
I mean, everybody was getting hurt left and right. I don't think you can really place it on one guy. I mean, we had so much adversity, injury to face and everything like that. And we still, like, the season we made out of it, I'd say I was pretty satisfied, but we definitely, we faced a lot of injury problems. I don't think you could put the blame on just.
So let's talk about that, Thomas. 93 wins. None of us have ever seen that, except OC. So that was obviously the season was bumpy at some points. The whole, Yerman Mercedes thing and all that. But 93 wins, that was like something we've never experienced before,
Right. I mean, then we went to the playoffs. We didn't do well at all. I mean,
just outmatched. That's all it was. It wasn't that we played terribly.
I mean, the Astros were more experienced. The Astros were more experienced, and it looked like they wanted to be out there a little more. I mean, Game 3, we were looking like we were going to get swept at home. We came back. We thought, we're going to win in Game 4, go back to Houston, and no, that did not happen. So, but we still had optimism going into 2022. Hey, we just made the playoffs for the first, obviously asterisk of 2020, like the real playoffs since 2008.
Yes.
Then 2022, then we signed another relief pitcher. You know what? OC, who was that again? You're good at this. I've been
relief pitcher. Oh, Kendall Graveman and Joe Kelly.
Okay. I was temporary. Okay, for people knowing, I was gone for 3 months. Like I had like no connection to the outside.
Thank you for your service. Well,
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so and then that was the whole lockout. I was out. Then once I got back, the lockout was gone. So that was amazing. Then we were starting off pretty good in April. Then we just fell off. Yeah, and obviously Tony La Russa made some bad management decisions. He walked a guy when it was a 0-2 count.
I was at that game against the Dodgers.
The Dodgers game. That was the big one. Yeah. And but this season, what was really defined by kind of what killed the Robin Ventura Sox is people thinking they know more than they do. People putting themselves first. Oh, I'm going to hire Joe Kelly, or I'm going to sign Joe Kelly because he's my buddy and he will be great. And Joe Kelly He looked like Belisario from what we were talking about earlier,
And I feel like this was like a Colts thing too. Like if anyone watches the NFL, you think the Colts are, they have these great rosters. But the thing is, in off season, they half-ass their stuff, and that's what the White Sox do. So most of the time, they just half-ass it, and they expect that they're like. Even in 2022, the White Sox didn't do anything. But we're going to go on 2022, a disappointing season. We thought, okay, obviously, and then Tony La Russa stepped down and retired again because he had some health issues. His heart.
And we hope he's doing better.
Yeah, we hope he's, of course, we're not going to wish anything bad.
He looked good. Right? Like I told Thomas this, like in his like retirement press conference for a 78-year-old who smokes and stuff, or drinks and stuff. He didn't look bad,
I mean, well, anyone could have a pacer. I mean, that's the thing. My grandpa has a pacer. He's doing fine. It just, the thing is,
I mean, it's a medical thing. It doesn't mean it's they're trying to keep, keep you alive. But
I mean, especially baseball, it's frustrating. Like it's stressful and frustrating. So that probably definitely took a toll on a 78-year-old man. I don't think anyone over 70 years old should be managing a team.
We're gonna get winding down here. Obviously, this has been very informational based. I want to get a little opinion based before we leave here. How do the Sox rebound from 2022? And obviously, you could say from the whole rebuild. Some people look at it as an abject failure. I don't know necessarily. We're gonna go around. I will go to OC first. How the White Sox, get back on track with their rebuild and all this, or from the rebuild. But
I mean, I don't see it as a complete failure yet because that's one down year. Teams could have one down years. It's just I just felt everything that could go wrong in 2022 went wrong. Injuries, guys not playing up to potential. That's what I felt in 2022. That if guys can play up to the potential, we could get right back in the playoffs in 2023. But anyway, I think if guys just play up to their potential, we could see a rebound in 2023, but it's going to be kind of tough because we already starting off with a bullet right out of the gate. We have Liam Hendricks. Hope you get better, buddy. But just got diagnosed with cancer.
Praying for you. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, Keith. How do we get back on track?
Basically the same thing. OC said. We've got a bunch of new staff in. We got a new manager. We got a new hitting coach. New stuff like that. And we've got pretty much the same squad, minus Liam Hendricks. But the players, the coaches, the management, the whole team needs to learn from last year and see how disappointing it was. And they really need to come at it with different energy. I think we as fans can say, different things we would do, players we would sign and things like that. But I fully believe that the team that we have right now, I have 85-90% confidence. The team that we have right now, I believe we can win if we do the right things.
All right. I think, and I will throw it over to Thomas to finish. I think that I agree with both of what you said, especially what OC said too, that we've been doing this rebuild for 7 years. We got to lean on the core. And we got this lineup. Moncada had a down year. I'm one of the hugest Moncada critics out there, but we need him. He's on the team. We need him. We need Anderson to come back after his injury. We need these guys. We need Jimenez to stay on the field. We have to lean on these guys. We have no real other choice. We just that's what we got to do in a weaker division. Thomas, we're a little low on time, but let's get your response.
We're gonna go real quick here. So I agree with all you guys, and I feel like this coming season, it's gonna depend on how are we going to react from 2022. I mean, obviously we don't have our biggest, we don't have Liam Hendricks, and we lost Jose Abreu. So how can the White Sox respond from that? And here is the thing: is how is this new management going to handle this core? And obviously, we've done this rebuild for the past 7 years. Rick Hahn was saying we're going to win multiple championships as quick as possible. We've only won multiple playoff games. So how is he and Kenny Williams and Jerry Reinsdorf going to go on from this after just having a graded F on this offseason? Can this White Sox have a good season? Yes. But how likely? I don't know. Because
we'll have to see. Maybe we could prove the doubters wrong like in 2005.
Exactly. But injuries, we need to be healthy. That's really one of the most important things. When we're healthy, we're dangerous. And if we have a better hitting approach from our new hitting coach and a good management style, I think we're going to make the playoffs this year.